8.2 Health Consultation by Demi Burchett, client number 2. So I conducted the same health screening questionnaire on client number 2, and here are their personal details. So the full name is Abby Burden, date of birth 4th of March 2003, their age is 17, and their gender that they identify with is female. Their place of birth was Chelsea, London, and I asked them if that was a rural or urban area, and she told me that it was quite a major town, but when she was young she moved to Brighton. Their current address is 52 Crossgate Field, and I asked what did her family currently look like, who she's living with, and she said she lives with her mum, dad and younger sister. Her occupation is a student. Her emergency contact number is 077 538 71258. Her height in metres is 1.72 or 172 centimetres. Her weight in kilograms is 56.2 kilograms. Her country of origin is the UK, and her ethnic origin is white British. So once I found out some personal details about Abby, I wanted to find out more about her past and present hobbies. She told me she used to take part in a lot of sports. She used to be a competitive swimmer, and she used to play a lot of tennis. Now she's quite a social person. She likes to go to the pub with her friends and spend a lot of time with her boyfriend and go shopping, things like that. And she was a competitive person, and her family are quite supportive of that, and they wanted her to do whatever she wanted, and they were quite supportive, and she just liked participating in competitive sport. In terms of her goals, I asked her to tell me about her current goals, and they were to tone and build more muscle, improve cardiovascular fitness, and run a 10-kilometre. So she had quite specific goals she wanted to, and she was quite focused in on what she wanted to achieve, so that was quite good. I asked her then if she accomplished any previous goals, and she went to the gym for 4 days a week for a period of 3 months and did the 30 days of yoga challenge. So that was good. She's varying her intensity at the moment of when she was going to the gym and doing yoga, quite different types of exercise, which is good. I asked her what she wanted to achieve from this consultation, and she just wanted to become a more fit and generally healthy person, and she identified that she'd been making more unhealthy lifestyle choices currently, so she wanted to get back to her previous state of health. And in terms of her long-term, short-term goals, I suggested that maybe it's best for her to focus on a short-term goal, especially if she wants to run a 10-kilometre. I said that would be quite a long-term goal, and especially to build up the cardiovascular fitness to run a 10k would take quite a lot of time. So I said maybe doing that over a 6-month to 12-month period, and we would produce an exercise program that would reflect that. And a more short-term goal would be tone and build more muscle. You could do that in quite a short amount of time, and those were her short and long-term goals that we came up with together. In terms of her motivation, on a scale of 1 to 10, she produced a 7, which is a reasonably high motivation goal, which shows she's great and she's committed to doing this, and she knows she wants to make the changes. And why does she think she is motivated, I should say, is because she wants to see changes, and she's found it's become harder to do the things that she used to do, as we've highlighted, because of some of her lifestyle choices, which we're going to highlight later on in the video. And I said, when do you want to achieve your goals by? And she had quite a small time frame of 2 months to achieve all her goals, which I explained to her, if we use a smart way of doing it, the SMART target principle, this would be quite an unrealistic time frame to achieve running a 10-kilometre and improving cardiovascular fitness. And I asked her, why do you want to achieve your goals? And she just wants to see changes within herself to become a more healthier person. So then I asked her as a follow-up question, are your family motivated to train? And she told me that they're not as athletic as most people are, but they are very supportive of her, which I think is good, that she has a good support system behind her as motivation, which may be why she gave quite high motivation levels. That's something that we really want, because then she'll be more likely to stick to her goals and see changes, and then boost her fitness even more. In terms of section 3, current physical activity levels, in the past 3 months she said she had been quite active, participating in around exercise for about 4 times a week, which is good. Ideally, I had to explain that you should be doing 3 to 5 hours of exercise per week. She wasn't quite sure of how much she should be doing, but she's doing enough at the moment, but we would like to increase that to around 5 times per week. And so she's doing 4 times per week, but mainly only low to moderate intensity. And she said she mainly trains her legs, so she's not training other parts of her body either. So she's not actually improving her general fitness, she's just improving the muscles in her legs. So that'd be something that we'd like to change, especially if she wants to improve cardiovascular fitness and toning and building muscle on the whole of her body. Her sessions roughly last for 30 to 45 minutes, which is good. She'll be doing around 30 minutes per exercise a day. I think as well she wants to increase that to 60 minutes, so that'd be something that we would be working on. She considers herself a fairly active person, but since lockdown, she's found it quite difficult to stick to her normal regime and her fitness plan, because obviously she liked going to the gym and the gyms are shut due to the pandemic. So she's been finding it a lot harder to incorporate her normal workouts in her everyday life. So that's been quite difficult for her. Her family are quite active. Her dad specifically is, but her mum and sister are less so. So that could be quite beneficial, maybe training with her dad. I think he did cycling, so that would be something that Abby could do. And her mum and sister, even them getting involved in doing family workouts would be quite good for them as well. A typical week in her exercise program would be a 20-minute walk 3 times a week, yoga every day, and leg exercises 4 times per week. So she is doing a substantial amount of physical activity, which is great. Varied, different types of activity as well, but mainly at a low intensity. So that'd be something we'd be looking to change in order to increase her cardiovascular fitness. And I asked her, what is your preferred method of transport, walking or driving? And she told me it depends on where she goes, but she doesn't really like walking. So it's sort of, she does it because she has to, and she prefers to drive any way she can. So that'd be something we'd be looking at changing as well. In terms of her nutrition, I asked her if she thinks she eats a healthy diet on a scale of 1 to 10. She said she doesn't eat a healthy diet, and she'd give herself a 2, which is a very low level out of 10. And I wanted to know why she gave herself a 2. And she told me that she has at least 3 sugary drinks per day. She does eat 3 meals, but she snacks on unhealthy options. So she isn't eating a balanced diet. Although she's eating 3 meals a day, they're consisting of unhealthy choices. So she's not eating from all the food groups that she'd need to, for example, protein and carbohydrates, which may explain why she's not able to run long distances and actually build muscle like she's been doing through going to the gym 4 times a week for 3 months. She didn't really see a lot of progression, so diet could be playing a role. I asked her if she liked cooking, and she didn't really like cooking. She didn't really know that much on how to cook, and she just sort of had what she can make and what was of access to her. She didn't know how many calories she was eating in a day, but she knew it was over what she should be. So I notified her the recommendations were 2,000 calories for a woman, and she knew she was eating over that. So ideally, that's something we'd be looking to change, for her to be eating 2,000 calories or under, potentially 1,500 in order to lose weight. So that's something we be working on by changing her diet. I asked her how many fruit and vegetables do you eat as part of 5 a day, and she said none most of the days, and some only 1 to 2 pieces. So she's not actually contributing to her 5 a day. So this could mean that she's malnourished, or that she's not receiving the nutrients and vitamins that she needs in order to complete everyday tasks, which may mean why she's struggling. She eats breakfast every morning, which is good, because breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It gives you the necessary boost in order to have a productive and progress with your day. So that's good that she's eating that. But in terms of her breakfast choices, she has a cooked breakfast, which is very high in fats and salts and saturates. and pancakes with maple syrup, which is very high in sugar. So she's, as opposed to eating healthier options, she's choosing unhealthy options that are ultimately going to affect her health in the long run. Instead of having a cooked breakfast nearly every day, she could reduce it to having it once a week, and then perhaps incorporating fruits and vegetables as well into her breakfast. I asked her if she eats late at night, and she said yes, she does when she eats takeaways, but not normally when she doesn't, so that was quite good. So I wanted to know how many takeaways she had a week, and she told me she eats once or twice a week, which explains why she's eating over her calorie intake limit, because most takeaways tend to have over 1,000 calories in, and you're meant to be eating 2,000 a day, so you can easily see how someone would eat over their calorie intake recommendations. And I asked her how many glasses of water she consumes in a day, and she told me 1 litre, which is around 3 to 4 glasses. So she's drinking and water throughout the day, which is good, but we would try and boost her to drink at least 5 to 7 glasses. In terms of lifestyle, I asked her, does she smoke? And she does. She smokes around 5 to 10 cigarettes per day, which at the moment isn't as bad, but as smoking is quite addictive, it has the potential to increase quite consistently throughout her life. So that's something we obviously don't want that to happen. She started smoking when she started college due to peer pressure and friends trying to fit in. It wasn't something she originally wanted to do, but it just happened that way, and she sort of resorted to smoking as a comfort in lockdown as the gyms were shut. In terms of her stress levels, she gave it a 9 out of 10. This is very high, so this is something that was quite highlighted to me, that potentially this could be an issue. And I asked her to say what does she think the top 3 sources of stress were, and she said college, COVID and social pressures. And I wanted to know why she said these. She said college because she's quite a perfectionist and she wants to obviously get good grades and things like that, and it can be quite stressful with revising for exams. COVID because she can't see her family and her boyfriend and her friends, and that's having quite an effect on her mental health. And the social pressures as well, having to fit in, like starting smoking just to fit in with friends if it's not necessarily something you want to do. So that was her 3 main reasons why she's having this stress and anxiety. I asked her, does she drink alcohol? She rarely does. She has about 2 glasses at the weekend, and that can even be less, so that was great. I asked her, so how many units was that? And she said 4 at most, and the regular amount of units for an adult is 14 units, so that's really good. I then asked her, what time do you go to sleep at night? She said 10 o'clock, which is a reasonable time. And what time do you wake up in the morning? She woke up at 7 a.m. So she's getting 9 hours of sleep, which is above the daily average that they should be getting, which is really, really good. In terms of her physical health, she hasn't experienced any injuries from exercising, only a few minor injuries like sprains and torn muscles, but it doesn't have any effect on her everyday life, which is good. The furthest distance she can run is 1 to 2 kilometres, but she doesn't really like long distance. She used to do competitive swimming, but found over time that it got a lot harder and she couldn't achieve the distances she was achieving anymore. And I asked her, do you currently play any sports now? And she doesn't currently, but she used to play tennis and competitive swimming. So maybe we could get her back into doing some of the sports she used to really enjoy. In terms of her medical history, she identified from the health issues I read out to her that she has asthma. It's not very severe, it's quite mild, but it did have an effect on her health, and she did have to give up playing sports because she found it was becoming increasingly harder to achieve the same standard that she was achieving. And she was diagnosed with asthma from the age of around 7, so she's had it for around 10 years now. I've asked her, did you find it more difficult to complete everyday tasks? She said not really, but going to the gym and doing high intensity workouts or long distance running, any exercise like that, it's quite endurance type, she did find more difficult. She doesn't have any allergies currently, and she's not currently taking any medication. So the informed consent, I made sure my client had a copy of the document, and had read through and understand the following points that they need to adhere to.